So next up, we are going to have our trainee data blitzes. And I'm going to actually transfer this over to Divya, who's going to come in and moderate this session. But we felt very strongly for the past couple of years, and this year we actually increased the number of sessions of making sure that we spotlight our trainees, making sure we spotlight what they are doing and how they are moving forward, because they're the next generation who's going to be carrying the torch. And so we are so thrilled to have so many of our trainees providing data today. So support them, give them lots of thumbs up. So Divya, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Our next trainee speaker is Dr. Shambhu Adhikari. He's a postdoctoral research fellow in the School of Health and Exercise Sciences at the University. Oh, geez, let me move this. Sorry. He at the University of British Columbia. Professionally, Dr. Adhikari is a physiotherapist with concentration in neurological physiotherapy, and currently he's focusing his research in A, characterizing brain injury due to intimate partner violence, B, developing and evaluating efficacy of a rehabilitation intervention for survivors of intimate partner violence caused brain injury, and C, developing and validating a clinical decision-making tool that is quick and simple to use in a clinical setting and detects whether a brain injury from intimate partner violence has occurred or not. He has also been working on translating research on neuroplasticity in individuals with neurological conditions into clinical practice. All right, I'm going to hand it right over to you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to present this work in this wonderful platform. Today, I'm going to talk about rehabilitation intervention that has been particularly developed to address brain injury due to intimate partner violence. So there are adequate evidence saying a high prevalence of brain injury due to intimate partner violence that involves the most of physical IPV that involves blows to the face, head, and neck, and strangulations. So we have adequate evidence to show that up to 92% percentage of IPV survivors who may also suffer brain injuries. There are scoping reviews, there are narrative reviews, there are neuroimaging studies demonstrating high prevalence of brain injuries due to intimate partner violence. These people, the survivors of intimate partner violence caused brain injuries, may experience different signs and symptoms that are consistent with the signs and symptoms of traumatic brain injuries. Besides, they may also experience neurocognitive or cognitive motor deficits or sensory motor deficits in performance levels as well. Apart from them, there are evidence showing that survivors of intimate partner violence may acquire structural brain alterations due to the injuries as well. We recently published an article in which we looked at the data collected at different countries, North America, South America, and Europe as well. And we found that traumatic brain injuries and strangulation-related alteration in consciousness may co-occur. And when a survivor acquires strangulation-related alteration in consciousness, as well as traumatic brain injuries, they might experience higher-level consequences of these injuries. So most of articles, most of research published so far are mostly in chronic stages. There are a few articles which looked at brain injury due to intimate partner violence at acute stage. So intimate partner violence related brain injuries may cause short-term as well as long-term consequences that might be at the impairment level or activity level, personal level, and or participation level. So all these consequences will lead to decreased quality of life in survivors of intimate partner violence caused to brain injuries. So the important, the essential component is therapeutic intervention to address these short-term as well as long-term consequences, not only to improve quality of life, but also to minimize long-term consequences. That's why our team worked on designing a specific unique intervention to address particularly the survivors of intimate partner violence caused brain injuries. So we call it Community Support Network Rehabilitation Intervention. This intervention includes two components. One, the ABI BEARS program, which included three different components: cognitive training, aerobic exercise, and mindful meditations within the intervention systems. To make this intervention more specific to this population, SOAR added three more components which incorporate counseling, trauma-informed practice, and inclusion of a navigator to support these survivors. So the key features of this intervention: this is a multidisciplinary intervention. It's goal-oriented, and the intervention is evidence-based. It is based on the principles of neuroplasticity. This is managed entirely online, and we provide individualized protocol for this one. And then client engagement is a key features in this intervention. So we do have facilities on tracking treatment efficacy and discussing results and treatment options and modifying protocols by addressing needs of individual client. So the protocol of this intervention has been published recently. So if you like to look at the detail of this intervention, the article has been published in DMIR research protocol as well. So this protocol this is an example of a 2 days per week schedule. It's 2.5 hours per day. So we start like aerobic exercise, and then a short break followed by cognitive training, block 1 and block 2, in between mindful meditation, and then we do wrap up. This is just an example. So we provide 2 days per week and up to 3 months protocols. So this is a study protocol. So at the beginning, we do some brain injury related assessment, psychopathological assessment, and we do collect demographics. In addition to this, we have different outcome measures. CRAOS assessment, neurocognitive assessment tools is the primary measurement tool, outcome measure, that is used to measure at the baseline, immediately after the treatment, and at follow-up as well. Whereas there are two other assessment tools: TBI, quality of life questionnaires, and BrainX, similar relations assessments. These two measurement tools are incorporated within the BrainX intervention protocols. So they were used to assess before and immediately after the treatment. So CRAOS assessment tools in this presentation, I focus only the memory-related neurocognitive functions. So we consider 4 different tools to assess this component. So numerator that would assess the visuospatial working memory, spatial span, that assess to spatial certain memories, token series for working memory, and peer associates for episodic memories. And beside that, the BrainX ML relationship assessment also includes a clock test that is to measure the participants' cognitive capacity that enable an individual to reason using logic and to connect complex relationships and concepts. It consists of multiple labels, and this assessment tool has been incorporated within the intervention protocols. So this was used to measure before and after the intervention. So this is a preliminary results, how relatively small sample sized, but if we look at the demographic and clinical characteristics, the cohort was relatively heterogeneous in terms of demographic and clinical characteristics. Okay, this is Creo's, formerly this is called Cambridge Brain Science. In this case, higher is the score, better is the cognitive function, particularly short-term memory. There are only 4 neurocognitive tests that assess short-term memories. The first key finding here is that if we look at the individual scores and compare control versus IPV brain injury group measure at pre, post 1, post 2 immediately. Post 1 indicates immediately after intervention, post 2 follow-up assessment. One of the key findings here is the IPV-BI individuals score lower. On the right side, if we see in all these neurocognitive tests, which is statistically significant. The second findings, if we see, there is no significant improvement, but which is probably due to the small sample size. The third finding, if we look at it, post 1 versus post 2, particularly the last two structures, last 1 at the diagrams. The post 1 versus post 2, there is a maintenance level. That means the quality of label on those survivors who received this intervention was maintained. So another outcome measure, which is a BRANX, we consider average scores to analyze this data as well. Higher score is the better cognitive function. So even though we had a very small sample size, we could see a significant improvement with this intervention in the cohort with intimate partner violence caused brain injuries. So the CSN intervention could help the sample to improve symbol relations function, I mean the cognitive functions in this case. So the important component over this is, since they need to concentrate working with this specific tool, they need to calculate, they need to give a reason, particularly, which could have high impact in ADLs as well. So we could say that this finding from this study could have a good generalizability to apply in their day-to-day activities as well. We also assessed quality of life in this population using TBI quality of life questionnaires. So we consider average score for the DT analysis. A higher score is the better outcome. Though we did not find significant improvement statistically in this data, but we could see higher score after CSN intervention. Even if we look at first figure upper row and then last figure upper row, the statistical value is borderline. So even if we have small sample size, the quality of life improvement is seen in this population as well. So the preliminary findings have IPV-BI is a complex and challenging condition for rehabilitation. Rehabilitation intervention would promote quality of life in survivors of IPV-BI and support to minimize long-term consequences. A rehabilitation intervention specific to IPV-BI is warranted, and larger scale studies and randomized controlled trials are required to establish effectiveness of the rehabilitation intervention, like community support network interventions. That's my short presentation. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for funding organization and my team to support in this work. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to ask me now, or I'll be happy to address them in the chat box. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sam. That was an incredible talk, and a huge virtual round of applause to both of our trainees. Unfortunately, and for the sake of time, I'm actually going to have Sam answer the questions in the Q&A box. So please feel free to post them there. But I will hand it over for our next session. Thank you again to both of our trainees.